Okay, so this would be like the equivalent of your configuration page. Okay, that's the best way to put it. So let's call it that. You've now integrated your solar, you've integrated your sunny islands, you've got all your batteries, you've got this, that, and the other. So you've added all your switching and switch gear. Okay, so then you have to start telling it things. So you can start giving it now automations. So let's go with, okay, let's take minor 2, okay? So we'll go for minor 2 on delay. So again, it's laid out in relatively easy to use, okay? It's not that difficult. So let's just go through the automation and we'll do it very quickly. Because what you want to do is maybe slightly different, or it's not as easy to explain. This is one of those, you can read a book on riding a bike, but there's nothing quite like doing it in the real world, okay? So what you want to do is use a trigger. So that basically in the old days we used to call them like if statements and stuff like that. So what you're basically saying is, I want it to look, first of all, at a state. Okay, and that state belongs to this entity, sensor, battery, charge power rate state. Okay, so this is the one that usually says number 4 because it wants to charge at full amperage. Now, when the battery starts to go full, it will then come down to a number 2. So you could write in the from 4 and then go to 2. But in this case, it's optional. So all we need to do is just say when it looks at number 2, it has to be at number 2 for, and then the duration, 30 seconds. So it stays at number 2 for 30 seconds. What then happens? In this case, there's no other condition stopping it. We want it to call a service. That service is to then turn on a switch. Which switch? The switch called -2. And then turns it on. And that's the end of turning it on. Okay? So you can start to figure out that's what I do. But what if it's not to do with what if it's not to do with excess energy? What if this is to do with, let's call it load shedding, okay? So I've got, let's say 14, 15, probably about 15 lights on the outside of our building because we live, a bit in the sticks, so it's dark outside at night. There's not really any street lighting or any of the rest of it. So, but there are times when what happens when it's just so dark, but your lighting, you don't have the excess amount of power you would like to give to any of these excess items that you don't need. So again, we put a smart switch on for the outside lighting. The outside lighting, I think as a whole, takes about 170 watts, something like that, of outside lighting. Okay. So, what happens if your state of charge on your battery is getting too low? What do you want to do? So, we can start to do things like we create a very generic something called scripts. Okay, from scripts we can then start to tell it to do a lot more things, or point it is a better way, point it into a certain direction. Either to do with, say, driveway lights, so that's what we call them, driveway lights. We want a button that, if it's off, because we've only, say, got 50% in our battery, right? And it's only 8 o'clock at night. But somebody comes here, somebody visits, somebody drops in, whatever, you want a button that you can just press so the driveway lights come on for 20 minutes. And that's a general rule of thumb. So even within that would have had an if statement put in, because it would have to be all the other caveating there as well. Okay, so same thing, 20 minutes, then call service, turn the outlight switch on, wait for 20 minutes to pass, and then turn it off. That's it, and that's all that one switch does. So really nothing, there's nothing there which is, I would say, strictly only to me, yeah? It would be ridiculous to think so. So let's talk about it in terms of load shedding. So I've used this script, and then done driveway lights on sunset and battery state of charge more than 65%. So this is a little bit more in depth, but it gives you a bit more ideas of what you can do. So if you have a look through, so we're saying if the sun has set and we're offsetting it by 15 minutes, so that means 15 minutes after sunset, yeah, it will then look at the sunny master, look at the state of charge on the sunny master, and if the state of charge is above 71%, then it will turn the lights on. That's it. So this is how you can start to build these types of automation. Maybe people want to be in a situation where they just want to use their power a little bit more sensibly. Maybe in this case, so this doesn't affect anything to do with our welfare, life being, or anything else, but by doing it this way round, we know that we are going to have more than enough energy to see us through the night. If the outdoor lights are going to stay on, especially for winter, those are the kind of things that we can afford to not come on. You can have the same things as electric hot water. If you're not at home, don't turn it on. There's no point. Same thing for the water delays, same thing for lots of other stuff. Driveway lights can go off now, so it's the same thing, but they go off when it falls below 55%, or if it's also off at 11:30 p.m. We can also now start to run other scripts. So what happens if your battery is below 55% and it's dark and all these other things? You still, if you've got home, you still want to see where you're going. You want your lights to come on. So now by doing this, it can start to look. So it looks here at a phone, says when the phone enters this, then turn on. These are all the other ways that you can start to automate things. Okay.